Alright, let's see what we got here. These are our new ball joints for the Expedition.
Let's see. Give you this side. Open this up like this. And pop it open.
Feel like a kid at Christmas.
Alright, there's our ball joint.
And here's the bottom, this piece here. That they gave you a dust cover. Let me hold that up here for you. And the boot is actually inside there. I'll pop that out. Interesting. And actually you get a little bit of you get a pin here, and you get a grease fitting, and that's pretty much it. And you just pop this plastic sleeve off of this here, and this is your protective boot that you put on your ball joint. Alright, no point in opening the other one up, so let's go ahead and get this bad boy put on. Alright, so obviously the first thing we have to do is get the vehicle up in the air, and I've got a couple of jack stands, and I have a third jack there, and also the back wheels. They are blocked, and it will not go anywhere. Okay, now in order to get this off, it's a fairly simple job. It should take me about an hour on each side, and this job at a Ford dealer will cost you $400. I checked today, and I couldn't believe how expensive it would be to replace these upper ball joints, so this is going to save you lots of money if you can do it. And I picked up both those ball joints online. Free shipping for $55, so it wasn't a bad deal at all. So the first thing we have to do is take this lower nut off here on this upper ball joint. And we have two other nuts and bolts we have to worry about here in a little bit. And they are on this upper control arm. Now these are pretty easy to get. You got a bolt here on this back side of the control arm. We have one right here on the front side of the control arm, and there's the nut. And what we'll do, we'll put a wrench and a socket, and we'll eventually break these loose. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and hit this bottom ball joint first, the bolt. Alright, so the first thing we've got to do, I want to go ahead and turn the wheel a little bit. Let me just show you that real quick. You can see I've got the wheel turned to the right, so I'll have a little more room to get in here and work. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this pin out. Alright, that came out fairly easy. I'm going to be using a 13/16 socket. You could use a deep well or regular socket, and we'll go ahead and see if we can break this loose. And usually these aren't too bad to break loose. So here we go. Okay, so we got that loose, and I put a little bit of oil in there. I don't know if you can see that, but it really helps out to get these nuts loose. So we'll go ahead and take this all the way off first. Alright, you can see the oil there a little bit anyway, and there our nut is off. Now, at this point, just take your nut and just kind of finger tight, do like that. I repeat, do not break this nut loose about halfway, then try to hit this and separate it, because if you do, if this nut still has a lot of rust on the stud and everything, this whole ball joint is going to spin around, and you're not going to be able to get this off. And a lot of guys get in trouble that way, so make sure you can get this nut all the way off first before you go hitting on this upper ball joint to separate it from the knuckle. And this will save you a lot of hassle and time, and you will thank me a little bit later. So now what we'll go ahead and do, at this point, it doesn't really matter if we hit this now and break this loose or not. But what we'll do, we'll go ahead and work on these upper bolts on the upper control arm. Alright, now I've got my socket set up here. I don't have a 13/16 wrench. I don't know what happened to it, but I'm using two 13/16 sockets. Now before you break these nuts loose and bolts, do yourself a favor. Get your can of white paint, and right there, let me see if I can get my camera zoomed in a little bit more. On that bolt, make a mark. See that little black mark there I made? That is your adjustment for your upper ball joint, for the alignment. Try to keep that right about there when you put the nut and bolt back in. Get your little paint and just put a little mark on it so you'll know exactly where that line is. Worst case scenario, if you don't get it perfect, you can take it out and have it put alignment back on it. But that's how I typically do it, and it works out pretty good. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and break these loose. Alright, we'll go ahead and break this loose, and we'll use my little pipe here, and we'll just kind of break this down. Now be careful, you have a line right here. This is a return fuel line, I believe. Don't break that, or it's a line for the emissions. I'm not sure which it is, but it's a flexible line. Don't break it. Alright, we got that broke loose, so we'll go ahead and start taking this out. And once you get it going, and I've got grease on it, it comes off pretty easy. So I'll hold the socket with one hand and go ahead and break it loose there. Alright, so we just about got it out. I think it's pretty loose. Go ahead and take the nut off. So that wasn't too bad. Just think of the money you're going to save. There's the nut, and it helps with a lot of... I've got a little can that I use. It's a $2 can, and I bought it at the farm store, and I put grease in it, used oil, and it helps out breaking nuts loose. Alright, we'll take this off, and we'll just tap this out real quick, a little bit. The bolt, I should say. There we go. I'll know exactly where to put that bolt in, and it'll make the alignment a lot easier. So this is out. We'll put this off to the side, and you can see this is already loose. And before we take the front bolt nut out, do the same thing with this one here. Put a little mark on that nut upward, so you'll know exactly where to put that back in to help the alignment. And then we'll go ahead and take this nut and bolt out. Okay, now we'll do the front. Get this off. And these can be on there pretty tight, so you gotta take your time. Here we go. Alright. Those are broke loose. Alright, we'll go ahead and get this one out. Oops. There we go. Alright, we just about got this nut off. It's really loose, and I can turn it with my fingers. So I'm pretty happy about that. We'll just kind of tap it back a little bit. And I'm going to leave it in because what we got to do now is go ahead and knock this ball joint, upper ball joint out of the knuckle. And I'm just going to basically use a hammer. I'd rather have a bigger hammer. I don't have the big hammer with me right now, but this usually works pretty good. So we just hit it. Well, that was pretty easy. And up it comes. We're going to take this nut off on the bottom. There it is. Pop it up. And that ball joint doesn't feel all that great, so I'm glad I'm changing both of them. I'll take the nut out in front of it here. Did I zoom back far enough for you guys to see me? Let me make sure I'm zoomed back far enough. The sun went back in. I apologize. It's kind of hard to keep the lighting sufficient. And take this out real quick. That there. Knock that out. Oops. Get the washer. That out. Pull this out real quick. And there's the little mark. I know it's kind of hard to see on the top there, the paint I'd made for that. And we'll just simply pull this out. Well, you may have to get you a little pry bar to help you out. Just kind of force it out a little bit. Like that. And out. There we go. And out it comes, my friends. And that is how you take out your upper ball joint. Alright, we'll take a quick look at it. And the boot is in fairly decent condition, but I can move it around quite a bit. But I don't hear any noises, but I don't think it's supposed to move around that easy. So we'll go ahead and replace it with a brand new one. Alright, now before we stick our new one in, you can see where I took the bolt out right there, that shiny imprint. That's a good guide to pretty much get your bolt right back where it should be, because you can see you can move that bolt left and right there. That slot is cut left and right, and if you look on the top there, you'll see little grooves and ridges. That is where they do the alignment. When it's all cleaned up, they use special tools to get in there. But if you get that bolt centered right pretty much on the dead center of that shiny part, you should be okay. So let's go ahead and stick our new ball joint on. You can see this one doesn't quite line up. It's not quite right. It's a little off-centered. The one I need is right here. So there's that one. That one goes on this side. And you wouldn't think, but they are a little different on each side. So you got to make sure you get the right one for the right one and the left one for the left one. So that's a match. So let's stick that on. Alright, we'll go ahead and start the new one. Usually they start in pretty easily. Just about like that. And we'll take our bolt that goes in the back and we'll go ahead and put it in with our little mark up. So I know where it goes. We'll stick that in like that. Hands. Like that, and we'll put our washer on the back, and hopefully you can kind of still see me working there, and we'll kind of just finger tighten that nut for now, and we'll do the same thing for the front, and we'll start the front one like that, about like that. And we'll put that on there like that. I'll grab the washer, put it on the back, and we'll take our nut and put that on there like that, and we'll kind of just finger tight it for now. And then we'll go ahead and put our ball joint nut on. Alright, we'll go ahead and take our nut off here. Pull that off. That boot stayed on, which is pretty cool. And we'll pull this back up, and we'll drop it down like that. Try to get it straight, as straight as you can. And we'll just kind of finger tight this one too at this point. And my friends, you have just installed a ball joint on your front of your Expedition 2000 model, and you have saved yourself probably about $400. Isn't that a great feeling? Yes. Now at this point, all we got to do is go ahead and tighten up the lower nut, the two nuts up on the top, and make sure we get our markings, our paint marking that I had put on there earlier. Make sure we get that kind of straight. And we're pretty much done, so let me go ahead and do that. I won't bore you with that. I'll go ahead and tighten everything up and we'll look at it as we finish up this side. Okay, those are tight and they are centered. There's that one, and you can see there's a look at this one there. Looks really good. And I got my paint marks right on, so I'm happy there. All I have to do now is go ahead and tighten up this guy right here, and I'm using a 27mm socket on that. These are some pretty big nuts for this upper ball joint. So we'll tighten that up. And that's pretty much tight. I'll go ahead and put my pipe wrench on there and kind of torque this down a little bit. Now you want to get that hole in the Carter key right there. Not the key, the pin that you stick in. Right there, make sure that'll go in. And we'll go ahead and stick our little pin in. Bend that a little bit. Get my little snips here. Bend that down a little bit. So that was in. And there's a look at the grease fitting. It's on. All I gotta do is grease that bad boy up. We have a little bit of a grease party. Oops, there we go. And you'll see the boot on the bottom. It'll start to expand. That's when you know you got enough grease in it, or it'll start to leak out a little bit. And there it goes. See it there? And it looks pregnant, and we got lots of grease in it, and we're good there. And we'll just simply wipe the excess off on the top, and we are good, my friends. How about that? Don't you love saving money and time? I certainly do. So at this point, all I can do is stick the wheel back on, and we'll hit the other side. Now I'm not going to show you every step of the other side, but I'll show you what it looks like when I get ready to pull it off and put it on, and we'll wrap this video up, and I hope I saved you some money and time. And just like this, boom, we are done with this side. Let's head to the other side. Alright, now we're on the passenger side, and you can see this ball joint. If I set the camera up here, I got a little bar set up right there where my finger is. Right there's the ball joint. Watch when I push down on that. See that? It's loose. I don't know if you can see it, but it's, you can hear it. So this is what we're going to replace on this side. Alright, you got the bolts loose. Go ahead and take these off. And this one here, pop that out of there. Grab that washer. And here is the bolt, the long one. And if you look closely, I have a mark on the paint there so I can put it back together the way I took it apart. And now we'll go to this guy right there. It's already loose. We'll just take the nut off on it. Push it back. Out comes the nuts. Put that on the ground. Pull this one out. And there's the paint mark on that one, so I know exactly where it goes. And now all we have to do is go ahead and bust our lower ball joint loose right here. Oh, by the way, I already got this loose all the way as far as it'll go down. Like I said, don't try to break it loose when it's only halfway off, because you'll end up spinning this whole stud inside that ball joint and you won't be able to get it out. And just loosely put your nut back on there, grab a hammer and hit it a couple times. A little persuasion and it usually works, and it's out. And now we're ready to take our bolt off the side, lift it up and pull this baby out. There it is. Here's a quick look at it, and yep, hear that? Making noise. So that was our problem. Now when I was driving and I would hit a hole on this side, the passenger side, I would hear it on this side. I would hear it would sound like a banging noise, but this one was bad. Alright, let's put our new one on. Oh, by the way, this is also a good opportunity and time to go ahead and check your brake pads. Make sure they're not worn down excessively. And if they are, replace them. You can get brake pads for about $20 for these expeditions. Alright, let's go ahead and stick this new one on. Alright, we'll go ahead and stick this one in. I guess you can just watch me do it in real time. Get started there, and sometimes you got to take a hammer and kind of get it started like that. There we go. And I'm going to grab my hammer real quick wherever it's at. Oops, okay. And go ahead and hit it a couple times. There we go. There we go. There we go. Actually, sometimes it goes in pretty easy. You just kind of tap it in there a little bit. Get the hole started as best you can. And we'll go ahead and start some bolts here. Alright, we got that one on. Got it started there. We'll just finger tight this nut on this one. And now we'll hit this back one back there. Alright, we'll go ahead and start this one. Sometimes, like I said, you got to take the hammer and tap on it a little bit to get it started. And once you do, just about in there. And there we go. Now I'll adjust my nut in the back here, make sure I got the paint mark where I had it before. And right about there. That's where I want it. And same for the front, right about there. At this point, all we got to do is go ahead and tighten everything up. Alright, we'll go ahead and tighten up our last bolt nut on this, and it's pretty tight. Alright, so we're done on that. The two top ones are tight, and I've got my paint marks set in there, so I know exactly where the alignment is. And now we'll go ahead and tighten this side up, get the nut off, and pull our boot out. Snap that on there like that. Straighten this up a little bit. Oh. These things can be a little tough to get in there. Alright, well, push this up, take my bar, push up on it a little bit, push down. Center that sucker like that, and go ahead and stick this nut on. And figure out where your eye hole is so you know where to put your pin in. And I see mine there, so we'll go ahead and just tighten this up. And all we got to do is put in our grease fitting. And we're almost done. And we've got our pin in. And now we'll tighten up our little grease fitting. You got to be very careful with these little fittings. It doesn't take much to break them. They are aluminum. And I've done this many, many years, so I know when to stop turning. Snug it. And now grab the grease gun. And we'll pump this baby up with grease as much as we can get in there. And that looks like, my friend, we are done. It is full. It is finished. So this has been about a 2-hour project. It's not terribly hard to do if you have some basic tools and a little knowledge. Certainly will save you a lot of time and money. And safety is always a big issue. You always want to be safe. So at this point, we'll go ahead and stick the wheel on it. And worst case scenario, you may have to get an alignment if your vehicle feels like it's out of alignment after you do this. But other than that, the alignments are pretty cheap. So let's go ahead and stick the wheel on and wrap the video up. Now I can come over to this passenger side tire as I did in my previous video and kick that tire, and I don't hear any clunking sound. It's nice and firm like it should be. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Our job is done here. It looks like I'm going to head out and drive it and eventually get an alignment done on it myself. I'll probably do the alignment myself, but you know, if I feel froggy and I want to spend 40 bucks, I might actually take it somewhere and let them do it. But that should definitely take care of a lot of my noise. And I hope this helps you out. If you have any questions or comments, give me a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think and subscribe and all that. Thanks for watching, guys. Until my next project, I'll see you guys later. Happy fixing.